In this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast, me and my brother James are going to talk about Zaccharie Risacher. Got to make sure I say Risacher. I've been saying Risacher for years. We're going to talk about Zaccharie Risacher, a guy that I've watched twice with my own eyes this season. How should I say this? Is the hype real?
We'll find out.
Is the hype real? All right, we'll find out if the hype is real with Zaccharie Risacher. James and I are going to share our thoughts and opinions on a guy that is considered a top 5 pick in the 2024 NBA Draft. It looks like France could have 2 top 5 picks, according to some, but maybe not us. Stay tuned. Big shout out to each and every person that has made the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Rafael Barlowe, the director of scouting for NBA Big Board. And to my left, but to my right on TV is my brother, James Barlowe. Big shout out, again, big shout out to everybody that has been listening and supporting the podcast. We really appreciate you. And this episode is brought to you by Game Time. I'm a big fan of Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. And if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please subscribe, like, share, comment, give us a rating, whatever it takes to help grow this channel. All right, James, Zaccharie Risacher. We talked about him a little bit, maybe a couple of months ago. I want to say it was maybe a month, 6 weeks ago, somewhere around that time. He's played well. I've had a chance to watch him play twice. What is your opinion on Risacher, and has it changed since we first talked about him when we covered the French prospects?
All right, so if you remember early on, I was like, yo, this dude is Corey Brewer, right?
Yeah.
Has my opinion changed? Not necessarily. And that's not a bad thing. Because with him, and in particularly in this draft, you know exactly what you're getting from him.
I have my doubts about that.
Go ahead. Explain that to me.
So when you look at the numbers, you look at the paper. Numbers on papers. 11.6 points per game, 22 minutes. He's averaging, 11.6 points, shooting 54% from the floor, 46% from 3.
5 attempts.
5 attempts from what?
3?
I got 3. 3 attempts.
Oh, it's per 36. I'm looking at it.
3.6 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal. So I've had a chance to watch him play twice. And in the 2 games that I've seen this year, I think I've seen him play live more than any other prospect. In the 2 games I've seen him play this year, I think he has a total of 15 points.
2 games?
In 2 games.
Okay.
The first game I saw, and I did an episode on it, it was in Monaco. They played against Mike James. Now, I will say I like the fact that he has great positional size. He's a big dude.
He looks humongous.
He's a big dude. I think he's every bit of 6'10". And I get in theory why people are so intrigued with him. And the shooting is good. The shooting is good. But the first game I saw him play, he had 4 points. I thought the best thing that he did was defend Mike James, which Mike is, he's going to end up being the EuroLeague's all-time leading scorer. I love the fact that Risacher took the challenge of guarding Mike James. He's big. He has the tools to be a good defender. Offensively, he wasn't aggressive, wasn't assertive, and there were times where he struggled putting the ball on the floor or making something happen. I do think that there is some flashes as a passer. The second game, I haven't talked about it. I wrote about it, but I haven't released it yet. So I went to go watch him play against Melvin
Aginsa.
And you have to check out the story on NBABigBoard.com because I kind of went into details about being a scout and traveling and so on. So this game, it was in a crazy environment for France, and he finished with 11 points. But they were all in the second half, and the game was decided. They were down by 20. So I go on Twitter that night, and I see all the points and the highlights. But in the first half, I don't think he took a shot. So my biggest knock on Risacher is that you don't know what you're getting because he had a game in I don't know if it was like the final of the U18s this summer, 0 points.
Mm-hmm.
So he has games where he looks great, but then he has games where he absolutely does nothing on the offensive end. So that's my concern. That's why I don't think you know what you're getting from him.
Okay, so I'm going to piggyback that. With what you've told me and just how I've seen him play, I know that's what I'm getting from him. He's a 3-and-D guy. 3-and-D guys, when they don't make shots, what do? D, right? And that's
pause.
That's why I'm not really big on 3-and-D guys, because when the shot doesn't fall, what do? So in his case, I know exactly what I'm getting from him. 6'10", corner shooter, transition slasher. Yeah. So him being a 46% three, that's great.
Yep.
And again, if we'll talk about it later, as far as like where you would see an ideal fit, he screams like Memphis to me. Perfect, right at the 3. Because again, you know exactly what you're getting: size, defense, shooting, right? But anywhere else, I feel like it's going to be disappointing, because he's a 3-and-D guy through and through that doesn't show offensive creativity.
Yep.
You say he lacks offensive assertiveness. So it's like if you put him on a bad team, or let's get to it, Raf. He can play basketball. Can he hoop?
No, he can play basketball.
But can he hoop? And on bad teams, you got to hoop.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And you know what? That Memphis fit, and we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but that Memphis fit
is seamless.
Is perfect. I think on one hand, if you're in Memphis, you can, if their team is the same, if it's constructed the same way next year as it is this year, yes, he gives them size, outside shooting, and another defender. So in that case, he will help your team win. But if you're Memphis and you have the 3rd pick or the 4th pick, are you taking that?
Do you draft on fit, or do you draft on upside in a draft that is everywhere?
And I think Memphis would be in a unique situation, because as of now, they're going to be a bad team with a high pick, but they're also in win now mode.
Right.
So I could see them. I mean, I like that fit there. I definitely like it. And I think for him, what could be beneficial to him is if he goes to Memphis, maybe Detroit, because he'd have a role as a floor spacer and a defender.
And expectations would not be high.
Now, if he goes to a team like Chicago, when the cupboard, how you say it?
It's covered, but it looks like cupboard. Yeah.
When the slate is bare, and if he's like the 3rd pick in Chicago, then I think that is
masterpiece sneaker.
Yeah, I think that would be a bad fit for him. But I mean, I just have my concerns and reservations. I think he is going to be someone that, I want to say fit is going to determine everything, but you can say that about any prospect. But I am not buying into the hype.
Where do you have him on your mock right now? Or where is he in your mock that is going to come out soon?
It's not done.
Okay.
I'll be working on it tonight. I got a plane ride. I'm actually going to Nairobi, Kenya. So I have a long plane ride, so I'm going to work on it tonight. But just in the preliminary one that I started about a week ago, that has the pieces keep moving up and down, people are going to think I'm crazy. I don't have him in my lottery. I think he will go in the lottery, but I don't have him in my lottery.
I have him at 11, but again, to me, 11 may as well be 18. But I don't buy his upside, even in a draft that is wide open, to take him in the top 5 like I've seen others have him.
Yep. All right, when we return, we're going to talk a little bit about his upside and some other concerns. We'll maybe go into a little bit about his draft range. And then in the last segment, we're going to talk about if he doesn't pan out, what would be the reason. And we kind of hinted on it a little bit. But stay tuned, because like I said, we're going to talk about his upside. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Guru Josh Lloyd to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long. So whether you are prepping for a daily draft or you're just looking for players on the waiver wire, every week, Locked On and Josh Lloyd is going to provide you with players that are guaranteed to fit your roster. Guaranteed to fit your roster. So let's see who Josh has picked for this week's eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. He has Jaden Ivey. His level of play has improved since joining the starting lineup. I know a lot of people were calling for that. And Ivy has, again, since joining the starting lineup, and since the Pistons are going nowhere, and if you're a Pistons fan, sorry about that. But that's why you got to tune into Locked On NBA Big Board to find out who would be the best fit, keyword fit, for the Pistons. So Jaden Ivey's a pick. Al Horford is another option. Gordon Hayward is an option with LaMelo Ball being out. So you have to go to Locked On Fantasy NBA to find out more of Josh Lloyd's picks. And eBay Motors knows that a championship team is all about each player being the perfect fit, which is the same with your car. So they have over 122 million parts to choose from at eBay Motors, and you can make sure that your ride stays running smoothly or even looking good because they have a bunch of parts, whether it's, headlights, roof racks, bumpers, whatever you need, they have at eBay Motors with 122 million parts. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, it is guaranteed to fit your vehicle the first time, every time, or your money back. So go to ebaymotors.com, and the eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Locked On Sports started the first 24/7 streaming channel. It is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I think it's a cool concept, and it is on YouTube. So please subscribe to Locked On Sports today. You have all the local Locked On experts, plus the national shows that will be covering news from every league. So check it out, Locked On Sports today on YouTube. The first 24 hours a day, 7 days a week streaming channel. Check it out. All right, when we left off, talked about his upside. So this is why he's a tough eval for me. Because on one hand, I think at the minimum, you got a big 6'10", switchy, versatile defender that can shoot. Now, if he adds some offensive creativity to his game, he could really be special. And he's a better passer than the numbers indicate. I know when I watched him play, sometimes he makes reads that don't necessarily lead to assists, but you can see that he has the feel. And I think that's natural. I mean, a lot of international prospects are decent passers. So I think that he has that. Best case scenario, if he puts it all together, he could be special. And I could see why somebody would have him at number 3 or number 4 at number 5, because they're banking on him putting it all together. If he puts it all together, you got a 6'10" defender that can shoot, that can at the minimum serve as a ball mover. And then if he adds some creativity, he's going to be able to post up. And
that's a big ask though, because it's like I haven't seen any of like special. I see safe. I see, was it high floor? But like maybe it's because it's Europe, right? But at the same time, you just don't see glimpses of, man, if he had a couple more possessions or more opportunities doing X, Y, Z, he could be special.
Well, I mean, I just think a lot of that may have to do with his mentality, because he's not aggressive. He's not going to be assertive, which I don't expect him to be in a sense, because he's an 18-year-old playing in a professional league. I watched him play against a EuroLeague team, and so they're not going to give him the keys. But the reason why I think that's just his personality as far as not being assertive is because I never really saw him dominate on the youth level.
And that's what I'm saying. I haven't seen him step out of that 3-and-D role on the youth level either.
Yeah, and so that's why I think that's why I said it's a best case scenario if he puts it together. You know, maybe, I don't know, if you can get him to add some shiftiness, because when I watched him play against Monaco, he had a couple possessions where he was one-on-one and he just didn't have a bag in a sense. Didn't have a crossover, didn't have any creativity, and he was trying to, like, he couldn't get by the defender, so he tried to turn it into a post-up, and he just wasn't strong enough, so it led to, like, a kick-out. So I would like to see him be a little bit more shifty, and that's why I say if you believe as a team, all right, we got the baseline of skills, but if we can just add this, and you think that there is, you think there's hope that he could add a little shiftiness, then you might have something. Now, he can attack closeouts a little bit on straight line drives.
And he's going to probably project to be a very good shooter, so he'll have those opportunities. I get that. But go ahead.
But he's a little straight up and down.
He is a lot of straight up and down.
Like, he's not fluid. Like when I watch Bilal is just fluid. He just moves different. I think Bilal is going to be able to get low, create, pull up. I think Risacher is got a little Michael Porter in him. As far as Michael Porter, I mean, if he's Michael Porter, I mean, I'm sure you would take that.
Yes.
But as far as just, I mean, Michael Porter's back injury, I think
zapped a lot of all of his sauce.
But he's just straight up a little stiff.
But you know what, though? Michael Porter can't go by you anymore because his back is messed up.
But he's a good cutter.
And he's a good cutter. But he has some fake KD, like, pull-up jumper in your face.
Yeah. He knows how to.
He still has his scoring chops. His body just won't allow him to do some of the stuff that he used to be able to do.
But he showed that at a younger age.
Exactly.
That, I mean, you can see the video of him playing. Who was he playing one-on-one against that went viral? It was somebody. Maybe it was Dennis Smith Jr. or whatever.
He looked like a grown man when he was 16.
But I don't see that. I don't see any creativity for Risacher off the dribble. I don't see... Yeah, just like I said, I don't see any offensive creativity, no wiggle, no one dribble pull up.
You know what? When we were watching, we had talked about it, Melvin Aginsa, how you just kind of saw a little glimpse of he might be able to create some space off the dribble, or he might have a little pull-up game. Mm-hmm. Again, it was very, very limited. Like, you don't see that from Risacher.
Yeah. I mean, their mentality is totally different. I think Melvin is a guy, though, if you give him 20 shots a game, he's going to take 20. I think with Risacher, he's always going to play the right way in a sense, which is fine. Like I said, if you're Memphis and you draft him, then you don't need him to take over. But he can't score on the move. I mean, like I said, I get the talent. I just am not buying right now the top 3, top 5 pick. And I know the production has been great, especially if you look at French teenagers playing in the first division. His numbers are comparable, or if not better, than all of the top French players outside of Wembanyama who played as a teenager in the top division in France. So I'm not discounting that. And maybe I'm kind of unfairly critical of him because this is not a particularly strong draft. And so maybe in a stronger draft, he is a late lottery pick, mid-first round pick. But he's getting the bump up because
of the
this
class.
is not a really strong class.
Okay.
All right, we talked about fits. I like Detroit. I like Memphis for him. I talked about I do not like Chicago. I think it would be very redundant if he were in Washington. Is there any other teams that you think could be a good fit for him?
Portland.
So you'd have Scoot, Simons, Sharp.
I'm probably going to move Simons soon. I like Sharp better.
I mean,
and he's going to be on a cheaper deal.
Well, you just got to have somebody making money.
That's true too. That's true. That's very. I'm always oblivious of the cap.
You got to have Simons.
Okay, but long term, I like Sharp over Simons.
But do you think Risacher could be a 4?
Hold on. So let's say, he's 6'10". He's 6'10". He can definitely play. He can play in today's 4 when we have 5 or 6 like real power forwards. Yeah, he'd be fine. So again, let's say you move Jeremy Grant and you want to keep Simons in the starting lineup. You say Scoot, Simons, Sharp, Risacher, Ayton.
So Portland,
and then he doesn't. He gets to play basketball. He doesn't have to hoop.
Portland isn't necessarily a bad fit. We talked about Chicago. What about like Charlotte?
No, man. Charlotte's got enough, man. I don't like him. He would fit in Charlotte, but they have too many pieces. I feel like they need to move around first before like they start drafting wings.
If Hayward gets moved, that can open up something. What about Utah? Oh, actually, let me ask you this: what position do you think he is?
He's a 3 or a 4. I think the difference between a 3 and a 4 is almost like matchup based. And again, he's 6'10", so 6'10", and he's not your roll man. He's your stand in the corner guy. You'll take that at 6'10" if he can continue to shoot at that high clip. Should be able to attack a closeout because he's gonna be a very good shooter. So you're gonna have to run him off the line, and he'll have enough passing. Like you'll take that as the 4 man for sure.
Yeah, and the game I saw against. I want to call it San Quentin because that's how it's spelled. But one thing about France, how it's spelled and how it looks is totally different.
That's how Pac used to say it, San Quentin.
Yeah, that was a prison. I've missed. I mean, I'm a pro at it now, but I've missed so many exits on the train in Paris because I'm reading it and it says like Roosevelt, and I'm like waiting for the voice on the intercom to say Roosevelt exit, and it sounds something totally different. So I'll just say St. Quentin. I'm saying it wrong. But in that game, when he had the 11 points in the fourth quarter, or second half, I should say, and the game was decided, he made an impressive finish in transition to where I was like, okay, he's a good athlete, but he's a lot better athlete than I've seen. So I think he's a good athlete when he has momentum. Like if he's getting downhill. I don't see like crazy like vertical pop off one. But he is a good athlete. But right now, I think that defense would be his calling card because of the versatility and then the outside shooting. But one of my concerns, and I'll touch a little bit more later on, is I think the shot looks good, and I think the upside as a shooter is good. But I don't know if the numbers fairly indicate where he is as a shooter because he's below 70% from the foul line. So I'm a guy that I look at both in a sense. But it's weird. It's like Grant Nelson, for example, is shooting terrible from 3, but I think he's at like 94% from the foul line. But I don't look at Grant Nelson and say he has great touch.
Right.
Risacher, the numbers are great, but the free throw percentage is a little average. So I'm wondering what will be his 3-point percentage at the end of the season. But I think, like you said, if you go to a team like Memphis, those will be open looks. All right, when we return, we'll talk about concerns. If he maximizes his potential, what is he? If he doesn't maximize his potential, what went wrong? Stay tuned. All right, I want to talk about the Game Time app. I am a big supporter and fan of the Game Time app. I just used it this past weekend to buy my wife tickets to the Mavericks Thunder game. It was very simple. It was very easy to use. Went on the app, looked at the tickets. They have the all-inclusive pricing, so you know exactly what it's going to cost before you pay. Unlike a lot of different sites, the price is, say, $50, and then right when it's time to check out, you find out that ticket was $88. But with Game Time, you have all-inclusive price. You get a picture of your seat, and you get it from the actual venue. It's not just a random template. It's from the actual venue. They show you where you're sitting. And Game Time has last minute deals, flash deals, zone deals. Easy to find and buy tickets for every type of event in your area. It's not just basketball or football. They have concerts, plays, and they have a lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection. But the most important thing, at least to me, about FanDuel is you get to see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect once you arrive. Go to FanDuel.com. Actually, you got to download the app. Download the Game Time app. Create an account and use the code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDONNBA. I'll say it again, LOCKEDONNBA. You can get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA, and you can get $20 off. So download the Game Time app. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, last segment. I feel like I did a lot of talking.
No, you good, bro. Show.
If Risacher maximizes his potential, he's an all-star. What went right?
All-star?
I'm just saying, like, if he's an all-star, what went right?
Man, look, if he's an all-star, it's because he played on a team that won like 65 games and they got 4 all-stars.
Okay, fair. But like skill-wise, what went right? Like if he maximizes his potential and there's something that you don't see that he has in his game, but he does have, and somebody's able to bring it out, what does that look like?
If he develops some offensive creativity, if you kind of squint a little bit, he moves like Franz Wagner, but Franz has sauce. So, like, Franz is always mixing up his footwork in traffic.
I was about to say.
Yeah, hold on. I'm going to make it sense.
It's different, but it's all, like, footwork, long steps, short steps.
But, like, he never shows you the same speed of steps every time he goes to the basket. So, if I'm drafting Risacher, I'm like, look, you got to stay to this Franz tape because you're going to get your open looks. I don't see him being the ball handler Franz is, but when we chase you off the line, are you going to be able to mix up your footwork and then in that turn get you foul attempts and you're not just a spot up guy. You're able to get to the rim and get fouled. So I guess that's a best case scenario for him. Because again, like if you just look at him, he moves like Franz. He just doesn't have the sauce that Franz has.
Yep.
So like if that works out and somehow he just gets that dog in him, then you can say, you know what, I can see him being an all-star. But like that's a lot of ifs.
All right. If he doesn't live up to his potential, what would be that reason for you?
He does not know how to hoop, and he goes to a bad team that wants him to hoop based on his draft selection, not projection.
Is there any bad teams that you see right now? Because I think the Rockets were the perfect example of last year of a team that you had to hoop. I felt like those Suns teams a few years back before Chris Paul came were examples of that. I don't think they're just out there hooping in Detroit. San Antonio's bad, but they're not just.
Jeremy Sochan playing the point guard. Y'all hooping.
I guess that was a thing. What you never associate that with San Antonio, but I guess I can see it. The Wizards
hooping.
Yeah, I mean, but you got. I mean, when Kuzma and Poole are your two guys.
I like Kuzma still.
I like Kuzma too, but yeah, so that makes sense to me. All right, so here's if I could like work with Risacher, I would say this. Look, you got
I like this question for him because he might go top 5, right?
Yep.
And it's almost safe to say his floor is just 3-and-D guy.
I think his floor is safe.
His floor is very safe.
Yep.
But I don't like safe, and I don't like safe in this draft. Again, depending on who I am.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm a GM at the last year of my contract or getting close to the last year, I'm like, okay, this guy is safe.
All right, so let me swing this back. Raf, the trainer, what you got? What do you have Risacher working on?
Yeah, you read my mind. That's exactly where I was
We
going.
brothers, bro.
If I'm Risacher's trainer, I'm like, look, you got the basics, you got the fundamentals, you got the size, you know how to get yourself on the court. But if you want to be an all-star, max guy, you can be an all-star and a max guy is a 3-and-D guy. But if you want...
Who's the last one to do that?
Andrew Wiggins.
He turned it. He averaged 25 one year.
Yeah.
And he turned into a 3-and-D guy.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
So I would say, look, we're working on, and it doesn't have to be crazy creative, but maybe like, all right, if you got a 2-dribble pull-up, if you got a 1-leg step back, like I listened to this Dirk interview, and he's like, he needed to learn how to create space because he was only, I mean, Dirk didn't necessarily have moves, but he could shoot, but he added some creativity in a sense with the 1-leg step or the 1-leg shot to create space. If I'm Risacher, I'm adding like maybe a 2-dribble pull-up, maybe it's a hard drive going right, and then when the defender beats you there, you can spin to your left, or even if you're left, even if you want to go hard drive left, and then you are a threat, then you can spin back right into maybe a touch shot, crossovers. Because I think he has the fluidity and all of that to be able to at least be somewhat creative. But we're definitely working on adding a bag, whether it's even if it's simple, the misdirection shot, the sidestep jumper, step backs, or even just a move where you can get to your spots in the paint if you got a smaller defender, which I think he's going to have a lot of smaller defenders. But we're definitely working on creating an offensive repertoire outside of knocking down shots and straight line drives and finishing in transition.
I would add on top of that, you're 6'10", you need to grab me 8 rebounds a game. And of those 8 rebounds a game, you need to be grabbing and going.
But I think that's a mentality thing too. Like sometimes the mentality that makes guys aggressive on offense is the same mentality that will say, hey, I can get an extra 2 to 4 points per game if I grab this rebound, this long rebound.
That's what I'm saying.
Go.
Because again, he's 6'10", right? He does make attempts to rebound now in France, right? He should be grabbing the ball and taking off and trying to run somebody over or Euro step around, because he has the athleticism to do it and he can dribble in transition. He can't dribble in the half court. So but again, these things come down to mentality, and we'll see about that.
Yeah, I agree. Anything else you would like to add about Risacher?
It's just hard not to see 6'10", shooting. The handles, he tries, but like you mentioned, he's still standing straight up.
Yeah.
He's only 18. He's not strong enough yet.
Yeah.
But
the body looks strong. That's the part that kind of threw me off a little bit.
But you know what though? I'm sorry, hold on. That might just be mentally, like I'm going to get lower than this guy. He's not going to take the ball from me, because it isn't necessarily a physical strength. You're right.
Yeah. Another concern I have, and I'll wrap it up with this, is I think that he is someone whose competitive fire and aggressiveness comes and goes. I think if he had a consistent competitive fire, and I'm not saying like you got to be Draymond Green out there or you need to be Russell Westbrook, but we'll use the Franz example in a sense. Franz is going to get his points. He's going to get his shots. He's going to impact the game in multiple ways outside of just shooting, right? So if Risacher was just a little bit more aggressive and assertive, and again, I'm going to give him a pass in a sense because he's an 18-year-old playing in a professional league with grown men, and that's just not necessarily like the mentality in Europe. I mean,
Topic is doing it.
Yeah, but his situation is totally different because his agent controls the team.
That's true, but you still got to go out there and get it.
Yeah, but if your agent controls the team and you have the keys, but Topic does have an aggressive mentality, and I think sometimes it's cultural. I mean, I think Serbians are usually they just have a different mentality, and somebody may be offended by that. But I think like I just don't want Risacher to be a guy that he's okay with blending in, because I think that he has more to unlock if he were a little bit more aggressive and assertive. But I also am torn because I think if he is okay with blending in, then if he goes to the right situation, whether it's Detroit or Memphis, he'd be totally fine. The pressure would kind of be off of him. So I'm just kind of torn, but I would like to see a little bit more from him. But the reason I'm saying that is because I've seen the lack of assertiveness and a lack of aggression on the youth levels when he was clearly the most talented player on the floor. That's where the real concern comes from, not necessarily based off of what I'm seeing this year. 0 points against Spain, a rival, like that's really
concerning. Yeah.
Concerning. Well, that wraps up this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast. Once again, Big shout out to each and every person that has made this podcast your first listen of the day. We're putting out a lot of content. I think we've put out as a collective NBA Big Board, and I guess I'm the one consistent, but I want to say we've put out like 30 or 40 episodes within the last 30 days.
All right, Master P.
No days off. You know what I mean? I'm on my currency.
No, okay.
I'm on my currency work ethic. If you're a rap fan, Currency is a guy that he may not be the biggest name out there, but he's going to put out 3 mixtapes a year. He's just going to outwork you, and that's just my aim right there, to outwork people, even though it's a lot, especially with travel. Anyway, thank you for making the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Rafael. This is James. We are out, but we got an episode coming up where we're going to talk about Ryan Dunn. This episode is it's the hype with Risacher, but Ryan Dunn, is he the best defender in the 2024 NBA draft? You're going to hear our thoughts soon. Once again, it's Rafael with James, and we are out.